Nebraska and Iowa and every place else, any place else. I think a lot of other people also. DeSantis, as I call him, the abbreviation, is a globalist sellout, and Paul Ryan and Karl Rove, acolyte, who's in the pocket of Wall Street donors at the Club for No Growth. Did you ever hear of the Club for No Growth? You know what they call them also? The Club for China Growth. They are the worst. I was with them for a while. We were 61-0, and then we had arguments over a couple of candidates that I liked, and my candidates won. They don't like me too much. Club for No Growth. They're more concerned with China than they are with our country. They would outsource every American farming job to a foreign country. This is what Ron DeSanctimonious wants to do, and it would be a horrendous situation for the state and for neighboring states. DeSantis opposed my China tariffs, the ones where I gave you $28 billion, by the way, and that was just a small portion of what we took in. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. Do you think they like me? Not too much. Very simply, DeSantis sided with the communists in China. I sided with the farmers in America. Does that sound good? That's good. I'm going to use that again. I like that, right? No, I've always been with the farmers. I was with them right from the beginning. That includes ethanol. Every Iowan also needs to know that Ron DeSantis totally despises Iowa ethanol and ethanol generally. He's been fighting for years. Don't forget, he was a congressman, and he was voting against it and fighting for years to kill every single job supported by this very important industry. Ending the renewable fuel standard was one of his top priorities as a member of Congress. He wanted to end it. And if he had his way, the entire economy of Iowa would absolutely collapse, because it would collapse if he did that. DeSantis slandered the ethanol mandate as, quote, socialism. He called it socialism, and called his vicious plan to annihilate the Iowa farming industry as a total no-brainer. Now he's going to come out here and probably say, I'm actually quite in favor of ethanol. I think it's wonderful. You know, one thing about a politician, I learned this long before I ran for office. When they have their initial thoughts, that's what they go back to. So he may have to come in and he may have to say, I love ethanol, isn't it wonderful? But what he's done to ethanol has been very bad. And the people in the ethanol industry understand that he's bad news. In Florida, DeSantis is famous for his cruel targeting of family farms, not in favor of the farms. In a callous betrayal of farmers, DeSantis recently vetoed over $130 million in farm subsidies, prompting the Florida Agricultural Commissioner to state in total disbelief, this is no conceivable, and there is no conceivable reason to target agriculture in a year when we have billions and dollars and billions of reserves. Agriculture was harmed today by the governor of Florida, and harmed very badly, and it's true. And he's going to do that to Iowa and Nebraska and everybody else, because that's his inclination. If you want to defend American farmers and grow more farm products in the USA, then you should vote for a very fine gentleman named Donald J. Trump. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. By the way, when we're finished, we'll take a few questions, okay? And I'll tell you that now, so that this way you can think of some really vicious questions to ask. You know, if you wait till the end, nobody's ready for it. You just say, any questions, and you leave. But we'll take a few questions. With your support, we will put farmers first. We will put Iowa first. And above all, we will put America first. Under Joe Biden, it has been a nonstop war on American agriculture. You know that better than anybody. Just weeks ago, the Biden EPA slashed ethanol blending levels by hundreds of millions of gallons. Did you know that? Yes. He's trying to raise taxes on farms, reinstate the death penalty, the death tax. He wants to reinstate the death tax, the one I just told you about when you want to leave your farm to your incredible families. And he wants to reinstate that tax in its entirety. And fertilizer prices are now almost 300% of your dealers and all of the people, thousands and thousands of jobs in your state. We're going to go all over the world. I'm going to allow that to go all over the world, and it'll be a great market. To knock down barriers for American farm products, I will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. I was all set to get it done. And then we had a thing called the China virus come in. Has anyone heard of the China virus? If India or China or any one of many countries, which is what they were doing to us, hits us with a 100% or a 200% tariff or tax, we will hit them with exactly the same tariff or tax right back. So that if India, which I have a great relationship with Modi, like them, but they're very tough traders. And they, as an example, if a Harley Davidson sold into India, they charge them almost 200% tax. You know what they say? We don't want them. Come in, build a plant in India, and sell them in India, no tax. And that's what we're doing. That's what I was doing. We don't want your product. We want you to build your factory here, or we want you to build your factory in the United States. It's so basic. But I'll tell other countries where we spend billions and billions of dollars on military protection. We protect these countries. They wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for us. That if they do not give preferential treatment to our farmers and to our manufacturers, the troops are going to pack up and they're going to come home. We got a lot of people we protect. I mean, I'd have a lot of meetings with the heads of country, a number of them in particular, but one, and really, we were spending billions and billions of dollars protecting them. I said, where do you buy your military equipment? I knew the answer. Well, I'd rather not really discuss that. No, where do you buy it from? I mean, we give you all this money. We buy a lot from China. We buy a lot from Russia. We buy very little from the United States. I said, why are we giving you billions of dollars? And he couldn't answer the question. It's not answerable. You know why? Because the people that ran this country are stupid people. That's why. They're stupid. And for the purposes of national security, I will ban communist China from buying up American farmland and other critical infrastructure in the United States. Have to do it. You have to do it. And China will be just fine. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's no wonder the swamp is getting truly desperate as they see us leading very big in the polls. They're getting crazy. Well, that's why every time I get a subpoena, you know, my polls go up, I get more and more subpoenas. Report to a grand jury. He's killing Biden. He's killing them all. That's what it is. These are crooked people. Never happened in a country called weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI. We've never had anything like this. And it's all bullshit, too. It's all stuff. That's why my polls go up. I'm the only person ever got indicted who became more popular. Because people understand it. They read it. They see it. It's all contrived, horrible stuff. Just horrible what they've done to this country. In the new premise poll, we are at 59%, and Ron DeSanctimonious is at 21% and falling. In the new Fox poll, we're beating DeSantis by 34 points among Republicans and 50 points among young voters. 50. Thank you, young voters. In the very respected McLaughlin poll of Iowa, this is the Iowa poll just came out. A man named Trump is at 51%, and a man named DeSantis is at 19%. You know, it's funny, I saw them doing an interview, sort of a straight interview, and they were saying, so his name is DeSantis, but nobody calls him that anymore because it's like they get confused. There's so many names. So we're getting ready to interview Ron DeSantis, and they're screaming, no, it's DeSantis. We've changed a lot of lives with those nicknames, haven't we? Yeah? They follow people right to the grave. They follow them. In Ohio, we're ahead by 44 points. Just came out against Ron DeSantis. And the new Tennessee poll, I love Tennessee. You know, we have every congressman and woman. We have the 2 senators, everybody in Tennessee with the endorsements. The Tennessee poll, we're up by 49 points. When asked who's the best to improve the economy, they go Trump almost 60%, DeSantis 18%. And in New Hampshire, a poll just came out, Trump 55%, DeSantis 11%. In South Carolina, you saw we had almost 80,000 people last weekend, and it was 102 degrees and it was hot. Who else could stand up for an hour and a half? Mostly without teleprompters, because, you know, if you read the teleprompter, it gets very boring for people, you know? If you read the teleprompter, all of a sudden you notice people starting to leave. There's nobody leaving in this group. In fact, I want to thank the fire marshal. You guys worked unbelievable just to get as many people. A lot of people outside can't get in, but I want to thank them. But in South Carolina this last weekend, we had close to 80,000 people, and it was just about 100 degrees out. And people kept saying, you know, when is he going to grab the water after an hour and a half? You try and not do it, but there's nothing wrong with doing it. Probably I should do it. But in South Carolina, it's 59-12, and in Nevada, 65-10. Would you say that's good? And we're also leading, very importantly, Biden by a lot. This week's Echelon poll, very respected, of swing states, we're up by 7 points over Biden, 48-41, and we're up by 11 points in 2 other polls and 10 points in another poll. And it doesn't sound like much, because look, here you have a president who's grossly incompetent, who doesn't know where the hell he is. He can't even leave a stage. Like, when I leave here, I really know I'm going to say hello to these people, and then I'm going to walk down the stair. I might even say hello to the front row, you know, maybe. But it's not that complicated. But this guy's always, where the hell am I? And, you know, I will tell you, the people that he's dealing with, President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un, North Korea, if you look at France, Macron, these are all people at the top of their game. These are smart people, tough people. They're at the top of their game. We have a man who doesn't have a clue. And he's in charge of potential nuclear war, which will annihilate the whole planet. And we can't let it go. People smile and they laugh and they think it's funny that he doesn't know where he is. And he doesn't know. And he didn't know where he was 25 years ago either, by the way. This was not one of the smart ones. This was not one of the smart ones. I asked, you know, I got along very well with Ted Kennedy. Never told the story. This is for Nebraska, not for Iowa. But I had a good relationship. I said, who's the smartest person? This is 25, 30 years ago. I got along because of Palm Beach and stuff. I did him a big favor, actually, Ted Kennedy. And not in my sphere in terms of politics, but that's okay. You know, that can happen too. I get along with, I have a lot of great relationships, like in President of Mexico. He's a socialist, but we have a great relationship. He did a lot of good favors for us. We had the safest border in history. But with Ted Kennedy, so I said, who's the smartest senator? Who's the smartest one in the Senate? Years ago. And he gave me a name. I won't say that because it's actually a person I didn't like very much. So I don't want to give. I said, who's the dumbest in the Senate? He goes, let's see, probably Joe. I said, Joe who? Joe Biden. He's the dumbest in the Senate. Now, that was by Ted Kennedy. Now, they'll go crazy. They'll say, oh, that's terrible. But he said this, and this was prime time. This wasn't now. And by the way, he's not old. He's off. There's a difference, because I know people that are 90 years old that are sharp as a tack. In fact, some of them are smarter than they were 20 years before. It's not age. It's there's something wrong. But he was never, and if you look at his foreign policy decisions, they were horrible over years, and his own people were saying that. He doesn't make right decisions. But now he's incapable of, in my opinion, he's incapable of running. And I hate to say it, because, you know, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to make it to the gate. But I guess I'd rather have him than somebody that actually is intelligent, right? So I hurt myself when I tell you these stories, in a way. Although I wouldn't mind running against Kamala. I wouldn't mind. But these incredible poll numbers are the primary reason that crooked Joe Biden has weaponized law enforcement and ordered his top political opponent, me, right in the middle of the election, because we're right now in the middle of a big deal, ordered me arrested right here, right at this time. It never happened before. He's doing well. We have to arrest him. These people are sick. And this is a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all times, which was when we came down the escalator, the beautiful golden escalator, and it's all about a thing called election interference. This is a new way of cheating, not really new over the centuries, you know, things like this have happened, but they've never happened in our country to the extent they have. They rigged the presidential election of 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024. And then on top of everything else, a highly respected federal judge, you just read it, issued a ruling this week that detailed substantial evidence of government involvement in social media censorship, where the FBI, the DOJ, would tell the people heading up social media what to do. Don't say anything good about Trump, and don't say anything bad about Biden. And you know, the pollsters, John McLaughlin, Fabrizio, good pollster, great pollsters, they said it could have made a 17-point difference, like the laptop from hell, when they had 51 intelligence, quote, intelligence people say, that was Russia disinformation. The little girl sitting on his lap, that was created by Russia. It's a terrible thing. It's right. It's really right what he's saying back there. It's right. They are traitors. They're traitors. They're traitors to our country. Traitors to our country. It's further proof that in addition to everything else, the 2020 election was rigged, and because of that, our country is going to hell. We had the strongest borders in history. We were doing great. We had no inflation. Everything was going beautifully. Never forget, our enemies want to stop us because we are the only ones that can stop them. We can stop them. We are stopping them. If the corrupt persecutions of our people succeed, they will complete their takeover of this country and destroy your way of life forever. And there's probably no coming back. There's probably no coming back. This is the most important election we've ever had, 2024. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. Thank you. Thank you. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. Remember this, if I weren't leading in the polls by so much, they wouldn't be indicting me. If I were not running, they wouldn't be indicting me. I'd have a beautiful, I'd stay at one of those nice places that I have, and I'd enjoy my life. But it would drive me crazy because I'd watch our country go to hell, and I can't do that. I just can't do that. But they wouldn't be doing it. And then they have the disinformation campaign. Oh, no, the one we want to run. Every poll is showing we're killing Biden, right? We want to run against Trump. It's disinformation. Misinformation, and there is a slight difference, not enough to talk about. Misinformation campaign, disinformation campaign. That's the thing they're good at. We want to run against Trump. I watch these guys, even Fox said, nice guy, Britt Hume. Well, you know, the Democrats say that they want to run against Trump. Well, that's very demeaning to me because, you know, they're not supposed to be. But they don't mean that. That's why they're looking at me every process. If I fly over a Democrat state, a blue state, I get a notice, we want you to report to a grand jury. We got to keep this. If they wanted to run against me, they wouldn't have me under federal indictment, okay? They wouldn't have me. But I'm doing this for you, and we're going to win, and we're going to turn our country around. Because in the end, they're not after me, they're after you, and I just happen to be standing in the way. That's true. True. And I promise you this, if you put me back in the White House, and Iowa, Nebraska, you're very important states, their reign will be over, and America will be a free nation once again. We're not a free nation. We don't have free press. We have a crooked press. We have a corrupt media. No, think of it. They have absolute proof that Biden's being paid off by China, Ukraine, and many other countries. And the press doesn't even write about it. That would have been 10 years ago. That would have been the biggest story in history. It's 100 times bigger than Watergate. That would have been the biggest, and they don't even put it on the news. They don't, you look, if there's anything, you know, they feel guilty because they have the biggest story in history, and they are cowards. They're corrupt. Or maybe they're afraid. I don't know. But if you see something, it's always way in the back, a little tight. This way they say, well, no, we discussed. We have a president of the United States who's a stone-cold, corrupt thief. And who's willing to arrest his opponent, who's leading him substantially in the polls. And then they go out and they say, oh, no, we really want to run against him. If they want to run against me, they wouldn't be indicting me. They'd say, I hope this guy goes, they'd say, make it nice and smooth. No, because we're leading by a lot, and we're going to win because we have no choice. If we don't win this election, we're not going to have a country. We're not going to have a country. There's going to be nothing left, and we can't let that happen. Just think of what we have already achieved in our 4 incredible years. We delivered the largest tax cuts and regulatory cuts in the history. These are the biggest cuts in the history of our country. And likewise, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had it going just before COVID came in. Nobody had ever seen numbers. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, women, men, people with diplomas, people without diplomas, people #1 at MIT, and people that could barely get a job before. Everybody was working and everybody was happy. And even very, very far left people were coming up to me and saying, let's get together. The country was coming together. It was amazing. And then we had COVID. We had to go through a different thing. And then even then, we handed over. We did an amazing job, got not nearly enough credit for the job we did. We were making ventilators for all the nations of the world. Within about 3 months, we were all geared up and took car plants and changed them into ventilator plants. It was, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we gave you a stock market that was higher than just before COVID came in. I mean, think of it. And then it's a series of horrible mistakes. They closed down our energy industry, essentially. They want wind. They want wind. Everything's fine. They want wind. They want all sorts of things. They want the Green New Deal. You know who came up with the Green New Deal? A poor student who has a good line of bullshit, who came up and said, she said, the Green New Deal. Nobody knew what the hell she was talking about. It's mostly fake stuff. And we're spending trillions and trillions of dollars of ruining our country. The oceans will rise over the next 3 years by 1/8 of an inch. But they're not worried about a country that's 600 miles away that's loaded up with nuclear weapons. That's not a risk. But the ocean's rising over the next 300 years. That's a risk. Creates more beachfront property, actually. That's the way you have to view it. So we have people that are just, what they're doing is so horrible. What's so horrible? And I'm a big environmentalist. I am truly an environmentalist. I want clean air. I want clean water. I want great fuel standards. I want great everything. But they're destroying our country. And if you look at China, they're building coal plants all over China. While we look at hoping the wind blows, okay? Hoping it blows. Darling, I'd like to watch our president on television tonight. I'm sorry, we have no energy. The wind isn't blowing. We created the most secure border in U.S. history, built nearly 500 miles of border wall, got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. Thank you. And then we negotiated remain in Mexico with Mexico. You think that was easy? Mr. President, we want to have everybody remain in Mexico. You think he said, oh, that would be lovely? No, because these are rough people that were coming into our country. And are coming in at numbers that nobody will believe. I believe the real number by the end of the year could be 15 million people. You don't hear that number. That's bigger than New York State. Ended the ridiculous catch and release program. That's where you catch somebody and release them into our country and tell them to come back in 4 years for a trial. Nobody ever comes back. And deported illegal alien gang members. We deported by the tens of thousands, MS-13 and gang members into their country. And you know, their countries wouldn't take them before I came in. And you might have heard it. The country would say, because when I said get these people out of our country, they said we can't